Every single day there's this huge, almost invisible river flowing across one of the busiest borders in the world. But we're not talking about cars or electronics. We're talking about trash. And for decades, this river of refuse has been at the heart of a simmering conflict that eventually, well, it just blew up into a full-blown international trade war.
Look at that number. 3.46 million. That's how many tons of garbage Ontario, Canada trucks over to Michigan every single year. Just try to picture that. It's a mountain of waste that's been fueling political firestorms and pushing two really friendly neighbors right to the edge.
Because let's be real, when one country's trash becomes another's political powder keg, this isn't about landfills anymore. Oh no, it's about tariffs, it's about international treaties, and it's about economic survival. So you have to ask, how on earth did it all start?
Okay, so how did we get here? To really get what's going on, you have to understand why this river of trash even exists. And it all boils down to two really simple things: space and money.
This chart right here, this tells you everything. It shows the razor-thin margin Ontario is operating on. The province is literally, and I mean literally, running out of room for its own garbage. If they can keep sending it to the US, they've got until about 2037. But what if that border shuts down? They hit a crisis point, a capacity cliff in 2034. That little 3-year window makes Michigan more than just a convenience. It's a critical lifeline.
And for years and years, Michigan was a super attractive option. While disposal costs in Ontario were skyrocketing, Michigan's tipping fees, that's the price to dump a ton of trash, were as low as 36 cents. 36 cents! This created this massive economic pull, leading to a constant parade of nearly 400 trucks a day. But as you can probably guess, the people living in Michigan, well, they weren't exactly rolling out the welcome mat.
And that's putting it mildly. This quote from former Governor Jennifer Granholm, it just perfectly captures decades of simmering resentment. The feeling in Michigan was crystal clear. We are not your dumping ground. The political pressure to do something, anything, had been building for years, and you just knew something was about to give.
And then that simmering frustration collided head-on with a whole new political landscape. All of a sudden, the trash problem wasn't just some local issue anymore. It was about to become a key battleground in a much, much larger economic war.
So in 2025, citing a national emergency, the White House uses this thing called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA, to slap a sweeping 35% tariff on most Canadian goods. And just like that, the cost of exporting anything, and that includes trash, threatened to go through the roof.
But wait, there was a loophole. The big trade deal, the USMCA, says that goods wholly obtained or produced in Canada are exempt. So waste haulers argued that, hey, Canadian trash is Canadian. The catch? You had to prove it. Every single truckload now needed paperwork to certify that it was 100% Canadian. And that, my friends, is a logistical nightmare.
Things escalated really fast after that. By late 2025, border agents were cracking down, looking for any little piece of foreign material, any excuse to apply that tariff. And hanging over everything was this mandatory USMCA review scheduled for July 1st, 2026, a date that threatened to close that loophole for good and just slam the door shut on Ontario's garbage trucks.
And just as the crisis was hitting its peak, the whole conflict got completely turned on its head by something nobody saw coming, a development from the highest court in the United States. On February 20th, 2026, the Supreme Court delivered a bombshell ruling. It decided that the president actually didn't have the authority under that IEPA law to impose those tariffs in the first place. The whole 35% tariff wall was just declared unconstitutional. And for a second there, it really seemed like the crisis was over.
A huge legal win for Canada, right? The tariffs are gone, everything just goes back to normal, right? Oh, not even close. You see, the Supreme Court might have dismantled the legal weapon, but the political will to build that trade wall, it was stronger than ever.
Okay, so here's what happened next. The administration immediately pivoted. They announced new tariffs, this time using different laws like the Trade Act of 1974. So that specific 35% tariff was gone, sure, but the threat was still very much alive. The battleground had just shifted. The new fight wasn't about a specific law anymore. It was all about one critical thing: auditable, ironclad proof of origin for every single shipment.
Now, this new reality, it created a massive problem for the old-school waste haulers. But for one really innovative Canadian company, 9-5 Wood, it created a huge opportunity. Turns out they had been building a system that was perfectly designed for this new world.
They call their model the Digital Refinery. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's revolutionary. Stop treating industrial byproducts like wood scraps as garbage. Instead, treat them as a valuable resource and, maybe even more importantly, treat the information about that resource as a high-fidelity data asset.
So here's how their process works. First, they only collect source-separated wood waste, and they use these giant 144-yard trailers to be super efficient. All their logistics are managed on a slick digital platform. No more outdated paper and phone calls. This efficiency lets them offer clients lower disposal costs than landfills. It's a strategy called tipping fee arbitrage. And finally, the wood isn't just dumped, it's transformed into valuable new products.
And when you put the two models side by side, the difference is just stark. A traditional hauler ends up with trash in a landfill, has basically no useful data, and is completely exposed to trade disputes. The digital refinery model, on the other hand, it creates valuable materials, generates real-time data with full traceability, and, this is the most important part, it produces audit-ready compliance documents.
And that document is the whole key, the digital product passport. By tracking every single piece of wood from its exact Canadian origin, where it was picked up, when, from which supplier, the DPP provides a verifiable, audit-ready certificate of origin for every single load. This is the ironclad proof that U.S. Customs was demanding. It's data that transforms a liability into a trade-compliant asset.
You know, the Ontario-Michigan trash crisis is so much more than a story about garbage. It's really a glimpse into the future of global trade. A future where a truckload of wood scraps can be less valuable than the data that travels with it. In a world of digital borders and trade walls, the new currency isn't just what you're selling, it's the verifiable story you can tell about it. And the big question is, who else is going to learn that lesson?